It's one thing to earn it. You'll find out that you're going to have God-given talent and whatever to earn it. You're a great athlete. You have the ability. You have the skills. You have the passion. You have everything you need to play basketball and to be very good at it. But do you have a sense enough to keep it once you earn it?
Good evening and welcome to Captions, where we talk about the what, the when, the where, and the why for over some 35 years. Tonight we have a special program as we commemorate the 10th anniversary of September the 11th. We're going to see some live footage when Captions happened to be there a year after to show you some of the devastation and some of the things that took place at that time. Stay tuned.
Good evening. Welcome to a special edition of Captions. This is Dennis Eggemeyer reporting to you from Ground Zero in New York City, where a year ago today, 2 terrorist hijacked planes flew into the World Trade Center, causing their immediate fire and collapse, killing over 3,000 people, along with 2 other hijacked airlines, one that attacked the Pentagon and also one that crashed in Pennsylvania after 2 passengers overtook the hijackers. Over 3,000. I am here at Ground Zero, and you cannot imagine, to the left of me, the devastation of what stood a giant of commerce, 2 towers representing commerce and finance here in New York City. I cannot describe in the words personally, the images you have seen on television and the newspapers, but to see it personally, the words defy you. Taking a look at the site now, it's hard to imagine the cleanup job that it took. It's very even harder to imagine the 12 or 13 stories of rubble that existed here when the towers collapsed. That fateful Tuesday morning, 2001, September 11th.
Actually, I was out in Long Island trying to get into New York at about 9 o'clock when they stopped all the trains from coming into New York. I believe they also stopped the trains from coming out of New York. I did get on the first train the very next morning at 6 a.m. and coming into Manhattan was like a ghost town. I was born in this city. My mother lives on the same block over here for 86 years, and I was a New York City detective here for 20 years. And it was just incredible. And this is my first time back here since about September 18th. And I just can't believe how different it looks now. It's incredible. You know, I mean, I used to come down to the World Trade Center all the time. You know, there was a ticket master in here where you would get tickets, same-day tickets. And I've been to Wonders of the World. I've been to a lot of the agencies in the building. And just to see this big empty space, it's just incredible. But had you seen it on September 18th, which I think was the last time I seen it, this is quite a cleanup job, tremendous cleanup job.
Tell me about where you were on September 11, 2001.
I was at work in my office building, and it was about 9:15, and we heard a loud boom. And we looked outside the window, and we can see the South Tower from where we are, but we're sort of, you can't see it as well because the Deutsche Bank building was in the way, but we could see dark smoke, and we saw tons and tons of papers flying around, like large confetti. Some of the papers were on fire. We didn't know what had happened. A little later, before the second plane hit, we found out that it was a plane, and we thought, oh, you know, maybe the pilot had a stroke or something. By the time the second one hit, we knew the first one was a plane, and we thought it was another plane hit, so we thought for sure it was a terrorist attack. And we went downstairs. When the first one fell, it broke out our office buildings. We had steel beams in our offices, lots of debris and papers from offices in the World Trade Center, and lots of ash.
Once you realized what was going on, what was the mood or the feeling of the people in your office?
Well, some people were very nonchalant and they just wanted to get back to work. Some people were completely freaked out and couldn't speak. Some people were calm. I work for a stock exchange, so we have a trading floor. So we went down on the trading floor where our PA system was working. The plane hitting the second building knocked out our PA system throughout our building, but it worked on the trading floor, and from there we had television screens. So most of us were in complete shock. We didn't really know what to do. We didn't know whether we should stay in the building or leave the building or what was the best thing to do.
What did you end up doing?
I ended up leaving about 10 minutes before the first building fell, and I was a couple blocks away by that point. Our office building is just 1 block from the Trade Center. So I was a couple blocks away from there, and I attempted to take the subway into Brooklyn, but I just missed the train. And while I was in the subway platform, the first one fell, and the smoke and the dust and everything started rolling into the station. And I didn't really know what had happened. We ran up some stairs at the end of the platform into an office building, and we waited there until they told us we had to leave at about 11 o'clock.
Since then, what has happened with your office building, and the business that you work for? Have they been able to get back on board?
Well, we are a stock exchange, so it's very important that we began trading again as soon as possible. Obviously, our building needed a lot of repair. We were back in our building 3 weeks later, even though another stock exchange allowed us to trade on their floor when the markets opened again. I think it was 4 days later. We had a bird's eye view of the debris. When we looked at it every day, you know, and in the beginning it was very hard to see, but once you looked at it every day, you started to become a little desensitized, and it became a little more therapeutic to look at it every day and see as things were getting cleaned up. They made enormous progress each day because they were working around the clock.
As you reflect back on a year ago, what's the feeling, what's the sentiment among the people who work around Ground Zero?
A lot of people are very nervous right now because the anniversary is coming up next week. A lot of people have chosen to take the day off. They're frightened. They're convinced that something may happen again. Other people are still having trouble dealing with the trauma that they went through. Some people saw some rather unpleasant things and had some very scary experiences that were in the street when the buildings fell and things like that. Some people are having some respiratory issues. You know, it's varied. Some people are doing really well. Other people, a woman in our building, the elevator was having a little trouble and it like dropped a floor. She had very high blood pressure. She actually fainted, and she was very upset and stressed out, and it's pretty much because of what happened before. She was afraid we were under attack again.
Welcome back. Now we're going to see a special event that took place here in Peoria, and we're going to be showing you the J.J. Anderson All-Star Basketball Camp, as well as what took place at the special banquet that was held in which Big Smooth Sam Perkins was our guest speaker, as well as others that will be talking about and at this special event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is well. First of all, you might have one less guy in your community, and that's going to be Dana, because I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Dana asked me to come up here to speak for his camp, and I came up here a couple of years ago to speak to the kids at the camp. Had no problem because it was right down the street, Indiana. So I actually came up, spoke to the kids, had a good time actually, and met some new people. So this year he tells me, you know, he wants me to come up here again. But he didn't tell me I was speaking to big kids. I'm all set to do my spiel with little kids and tell them, you know, stay in school, you're not going to make the NBA, and whatnot, and, you know, pay attention to your parents and so on. Well, I get up here this time, and, you know, I'm hitting around. I got here last night, and hitting around about what's entailed for tomorrow. So he said, "You're going to speak?" I said, "All right, no problem." So I asked him again maybe an hour later, you know, after he's full on his dinner and steak, and I asked him, "So what's entailed for tomorrow?"
So he goes, we're going to speak at a luncheon. I'm like, okay, well, you know, kids will probably come from the camp. Since it's free of charge, they're going to have food free too. So next thing I know, he's going to tell me, politician's going to be here. And I met the mayor. I said, oh my God, so there ain't no kids here. So I'm thinking like, what has this man got me into? So on top of that, the reason why I want to get rid of him is because this is a luncheon, and I'm dressed for a camp. And normally something told me, I mean, it is mad hot in Dallas. So again, I'm thinking I'm going to a camp, so why bring a jacket? And why bring a collared shirt if I'm going to a camp? I promise you, in my bag I have 2 more t-shirts, some jeans, and some undergear, and that's it. And I feel so naked here without a jacket and the proper stuff because since I'm always in front of people, I don't have the proper attire. So excuse my attire, and you know, like I said, you won't have one less guy here. Oh man. So now I have to change my whole speech and my whole thought, and I can't sleep last night because what I'm going to say to you bigger kids, you know, like, you know, about basketball. But I worked it out, and hopefully it'll go over. But it's a pleasure to be here, as always. As Dana said, I played for 18 years, and I wasn't asleep for 10,000 of them, those points. But, you know, my critics say that. I got one critic, I know Peter Vesey, he told me that. And it's just, as I look back on those 18 years, it just don't seem like 18 years because I didn't plan on doing that. I'm from New York, of course, and went to the University of North Carolina and grew up in Brooklyn. And I had no desire to play basketball when I first came out of Brooklyn. I was more of a Yankee fan, or just, you know, honestly, I did want to drive a UPS truck. I don't know why, but go figure. But at the same time, my interest changed and started growing a little bit and started developing a liking to the New York Knickerbockers. That's what they called at the time. So things changed for me. And as I got to college and graduated from University of North Carolina and played with so many people. Matter of fact, Jordan played with me because I was there first. That's wrong. And so I keep telling people that, and they don't understand why I am so adamant about that. But I played with Worthy. I played with all those other guys, but Jordan played with me. And even though he's such a great player, we've done a lot of good things at Carolina. And at the same time, as I mentioned, those 18 years were great, starting out in Dallas and going on to the Lakers and then Seattle, where really things started happening for me, and then finishing up in Indiana. These things were a tribute to the coaches, to the people that I've met, my parents. I even credit my daughters because of the fact that I have twins, and I can't do nothing wrong. So I have to be in a light where I have to show them what I do, actually. So they were actually asking me last week, what do you do? And so I had to take them out with me a couple of times to show them, as Dana said, that I'm part of Special Olympics, which is probably my heart, because I had an interest in that since I was in college. And Dean Smith was the guy that was pivotal in my life at the time, because he introduced me to some of these other organizations and said, you know, you need to look at other things as you play. And then when I get to the league, I've always took the time, or even interning during the summers, or actually doing something with an organization to volunteer. My major was communications, and I had told some people prior coming here that after I finished playing basketball, I went into analyst, TV or communications, and on the radio. And for some reason, I got to radio, and all the things that I've done in college, and I was so excited about going on radio and TV, I didn't like it. So, and the reason is you had to talk. You had to talk all the time, whether the player was good or bad. You still had to say something good. And I constantly had to make up stuff to say something about this bad guy, you know, this bad player. And so after a while, it wasn't like looking forward. I wasn't looking forward to it all the time as I was doing some other things. So somebody else said you should go into what you do now as an ambassador for the league, going to different organizations. I've done things with Dana as far as player development, and that took interest in me because each year the guys come in not knowing as much as you do, and player development thing was a good thing because we didn't have it coming in. I guess since we finished 4 years of school, we always we had a sound background in college. College prepared you for this and for the pros. Didn't prepare you for everything, but you had an insight on how to take care of yourself. You knew not to wash your suits, you know, in a wash cycle and dry them in a dry cycle. I mean, which kids do today. I mean, there's guys that do that, or a kid that almost did that because he got fined, and I know you know who I'm talking about. But these things and preparing yourself, opening an account, and all these things took interest in me because I was a player, and I wanted to make sure that the players that were after me had the common sense and make sure that as a grown young man that these are the things you need to do. So I got involved with the NBA in that manner, and then after that decided to branch out with some of the other organizations that Dana mentioned again, with Special Olympics, malaria, autism. And I travel pretty much, maybe, I don't know. I travel more, so let's say I travel more than I did during a regular season because I just came back from Greece and had to turn around, open up a bag to pack again to go to Brazil. And over there was, we do life skills, mentoring. Not only play basketball, we bring different young men from different countries who are between the ages of 14 and 17. They play against each other. But when those things are over, we go into the community, Pavilla, which were owned by drug lords, and we try to get in there and try to help the community. And we furbish either a new school, a new center, or we furbish a basketball court. And that's what we did in Brazil. So these things take time, and this is why I'm always on the go. So, I mean, and I really just slipped into it because somebody thought I had the persona or I'm so laid back, they thought maybe this would, you know, be something that I think that I did, but I'm not sleeping on it. It's nothing like that, but they just thought I had the temperament to do all these things and be patient because they send me over, since they didn't want to do it, they send me over there. And it's interesting in different parts of the country, in Africa especially, you say, let's say this luncheon is at 12 o'clock, they'll come at 2 o'clock. So I'm sitting there like I don't know what to do. You know, I'm there by myself, and I'm like, man, they ain't coming. If I leave, then I'm gonna hear it from my officials in New York. I'm like, well, we didn't make the contact, but they come as they want to in that country. And in other countries like Brazil or Argentina or somewhere, they eat late. So your dinner now is like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm not, you know, and I do sleep, but at the same time, I mean, this is what I do, and this is what I'm confronted with, and we try to set it up, and even though we have an NBA lockout now, we tend to go over and set things up, and then when the summer gets here, we actually have the players come over and do the rest of the marketing and do some of the things that the NBA wants for other countries to know about us. But these things take time, and the reason why I talk about this is because, you know, as an athlete in school, I mean, that's all you think about is basketball. And you definitely think about that degree. But nowadays, these guys tend to just jump college for their own reasons. I'm not mad at them at that, but I would hope that they would go back for that degree, because I keep telling them, and I keep telling the little kids, that everybody's not going to make the NBA, so you have to rely on something else. I mean, I just give them a situation where if all these people were going into one closet, everybody's not going to get in there. Just like the NBA, you're not going to make the league at all. So you have to fall back on something else, be a student athlete in other ways, take up a trade, volunteer, and this is how you open doors for yourself. And I'm telling you all that because you build relationships like that. And as I was sitting here hearing everyone speak, you all have built relationships, or directly or indirectly know each other somehow to make this basketball camp affordable for kids to come, to find a way to do things other than play ball. But you give them a chance to learn a skill that they might not even like when they grow up. But at the same time, you give them a chance and opportunity. And this is what we try to do in the league. Myself, people that I meet, always try to, even though it's late or early, I get up and try to make it happen. And as a player like that, you don't think like that when you're playing. You just thinking about constantly basketball. You know, winning the next game, going to the next city, doing whatever you got to do, get the tickets out to your families, and go on from there. But on the other side, when you get to the other side where that 10th, 11th, or even 8th or 9th year starts coming, you tend to start thinking about, what am I going to do after this? And there's a lot of players in that situation trying to figure out what they're going to do. Because, like for instance, the lockout is this year. There's a lot of guys trying to figure out if this is going to end. And some guys are not financially, secure. So it all goes back to what I was talking about. You have to find some other means, find some other ways about yourself. Because I didn't want to be just limited to be a basketball player. I wanted to be the things that I wanted to pursue. And this is why I interned. This is why I took time each summer, whether it was 2 weeks or 5 days, just to meet other people. And that's what the NBA encourages, to go out and meet, be forward about yourself. We have a lot of guys. I was at the Pacers 2 years ago, and we had the president or CEO of a company on board. Well, I told the guys, or Larry Bird was my boss at the time, and he told the guys in front of me, you make sure these guys meet the CEO. I was like, all right, well, they grown men, they can meet them themselves. I don't have to tell them. So he was sitting by himself, and none of the guys really approached him. I don't understand why, because I guess because they're shy or they don't know what to say or they're uncomfortable. I said, well, I'll go with you. So I went with them. I went with one guy, and I introduced him. I said, so-and-so, this is so-and-so. And next thing you know, I mean, it was like dead. It was like 2 minutes. It felt like 2 minutes, but it was like 30 seconds of quietness because these guys don't know how to talk. And I was like, how do you talk to a woman, man? I don't understand them at all, because when I was his age, the only thing she can do is say no. So I knew I had to step my game up. But at the same time, these guys in the league, again, and owners know this. I don't even know if the owners know this, but the player, to understand a player, sometimes you have to be a player. And I was actually telling these guys, look, this is a CEO guy, and you're very marketable. You're the guy on the team. You represent the Pacers or whatever you do. You need to introduce yourself, because he was from Lilly Pharmaceuticals, and it's right in Indianapolis. So the thing is, you need to actually go and speak to him and say something, let your voice be heard. So one guy did it. Out of 15 guys, one guy did it. And he actually took an intern because of following up on what I did. So these are the things that we have to overcome in the league and actually have to do to promote some of these guys because of the guys that come into the league are just strictly basketball. And I always ask them, and we always ask them in player development circuits or meetings, what would you do if you didn't play ball? And it was quiet for a minute. And one guy said, I wouldn't know. I mean, he's coming out of school. He said he wouldn't know. So we help them, we train them, we have a curriculum, and Dana knows this, and we try to put them in place so that, you know, they can further their career off the court. Because I'm telling you, I mean, your favorite player may be as dumb as rocks, but at the same time, we're trying to eliminate that stereotype because they're really not. It's just that they just don't know. And so, you know, you see the Kobe's, you see the Wade's, and they all sharp. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they dumb, but they just don't know how to